He said around 7, he panted on top of me, between thrusts. I might be late. Got a new client meeting today, I wheezed again, as the air was squeezed out of my chest. No problem, I can be here. Thank you, I rasped, tracing my nails up and down his back. His thrust sped up and he groaned into the pillow under my head. Did you book that restaurant for lunch tomorrow? That place in Chiswick, Ouch! Gus! He'd moved his hand to the wall behind us and caught a clump of my hair in his fingers. Sorry, you're an angel. Lunch tomorrow was with Hector and Harriet, 2 of Gus's Cambridge friends, who'd just had a baby called Homer. When Gus emailed me with the news, I sent him a gif of Homer Simpson, but he'd replied solemnly explaining that the name was in homage to the ancient Greek poet. Obviously I knew that. Hector and Harriet would never have even seen an episode of The Simpsons. They were the sort of couple who boasted smugly about not owning a TV, as if they sat reading the Iliad every night. Nearly there, Gus panted over my shoulder. I dropped my fingers to his bottom and pulled him deeper into me. That would help. Ooh, he puffed, speeding up again, his bottom like a pogo stick. In and out, in and out. Nearly there, nearly there. I knew what would work. I bent my fingers so my nails dug into his buttocks. And I'm there, roared Gus, breathing hotly into my neck. He froze and then collapsed, with his face in the pillow. I turned my head to glance at the clock. 6:19 a.m. Perfect. I'd be in the office by 7. I always ran into work carrying a rucksack of neatly rolled clothes. From our flat in Clapham, I wound up to Vauxhall Roundabout, then along the south side of the river and over Waterloo Bridge. Here was my favourite view of the city. To my right, the sun rising brightly, on a good day, over St Paul's Cathedral. To my left, the Houses of Parliament. Then it was straight up Kingsway, the wide, 4-lane street that buses thundered up and down, which obscured a quieter square tucked behind it. My office overlooked this square, a worn patch of green where pigeons pecked at crumbs left underneath benches. It was a distance of 5 miles exactly, took 40 minutes, and I ran it every day, summer and winter. I discovered running when I started work as a trainee lawyer at Spinks. The hours were crazy, and I needed fresh air during the day without being away from my desk for too long. But I didn't have time for the gym, so jogging into work became my solution, almost a form of meditation. I was embarrassed at first, plodding flat-footed along the pavements, my bag swinging heavily on my back. But then I got better, faster. I bought proper kit and belted my new rucksack around my stomach. I became one of those people who wove through commuters and tourists, on and off the pavement, willing the lights to change up ahead so I didn't have to stop. I joked to colleagues that I was like a dog that needed to be walked first thing. What I didn't disclose was that running meant I arrived at Lincoln's Inn Fields with endorphins surging around my body, and I could handle sitting next to Gideon all day. Gideon Fotheringham was my boss, a 60-year-old partner at Spinks, with a face as ruddy as raw steak from long lunches, and blonde hair that was never brushed. He was a pig in a wig who earned just over £2.1 million last year. Whenever a new client came in to see us, Gideon joked that he was exceptionally good at divorce because he himself had done it twice. He'd recently remarried a 3rd time to a woman my age called Ophelia, who had a single-digit IQ and spent most of her time deliberating over curtain patterns for their house in the Cotswolds. Gideon also owned a flat in South Kensington, which he supposedly used during the week, although he didn't always sleep there. More than once, when a graduate trainee, I had to race to Tirrett's in the morning to fetch a fresh shirt since he hadn't been home the previous night. I always warned new female trainees not to get in the lift or find themselves alone in the boardroom with him. But then, Spinks & Co. was full of Gideons. It was London's oldest, most traditional law firm, situated in a Grade 2 listed Georgian townhouse, protected by shiny black railings outside, and with thick carpets, mahogany doors, and fridges full of small Perrier bottles inside. All the partners were white 60-something men who'd been to Eton and Oxford. From midday on Fridays, champagne was served to them in the boardroom. Although, being old and traditional didn't necessarily make it inefficient in its methods. These men were piranhas in pinstripe suits, going after the biggest corporate and commercial cases they could.